Today we're getting under the hood with Stephanie Vincent, a mother, grandmother, community organizer, activist, functional fitness trainer, and lifelong leader whose work lives at the intersection of personal and collective liberation. Her path has always braided multiple callings at once. As a blogger, writer, and life coach, she's helped people reimagine self image, embrace self love, and live from a place of worth beyond appearance, all while building her career as a functional fitness trainer and creating youth fitness programs, including nonprofit partnerships to ensure every child can participate. At the same time, she has led spaces for deep emotional and spiritual work in community, work that fuels her activism and is rooted in the belief that personal liberation and the fight for justice are inseparable. In 2020, during the racial justice uprising, Stephanie founded Community for Change Montgomery County, first as a protest movement and now as a hyperlocal grassroots network rooted in shared values, mutual aid, and community power. Today, Community for Change connects neighbors, builds resilience, and organizes resistance to protect the safety, dignity, and rights of all people in Montgomery County. Stephanie's work refuses to choose between inner and outer change, knowing that how we care for ourselves, each other, and our communities is the foundation for the world we're building. Wow, welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to get under the sisterhood with you.
Well, I am just so delighted. It's season 4, Women's March for Mental Wellness. So if it's okay, let's get going.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. Everybody has different inflection points in life, but because we're talking about mental health and wellness, Stephanie, what was your inflection point that got you on this journey to recognize all the things and do the work you're doing today?
Yeah, there's been many different times in my life where I've had like shifts that really, changed me, but I have to say the one that really started me on the path that I'm on today is when that came after I kind of hit rock bottom. So I had struggled with my body image and my weight my whole life since I was a small child, and when I was 24, I had a gastric bypass surgery. I had my daughter, and then I gained a bunch of weight back. I hit rock bottom. I just, I was self-destructive. It was just really bad. But at that bottom, I knew that I didn't need another diet or another, like, I knew I needed to love and accept myself. Like, I knew that that was what I needed to do. So I started working with a life coach, and I read Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, which is all about presence and being the moment. And there was one session with my life coach, although, it's a built up, it's not really one, where there was like the shift inside me where I felt like I broke my self-worth apart from my physical body or anything else. I would often say prior to this that I can't be who I really am until I lose weight. It's stopping me from being having my full potential. And when I realized that I was whole because I was connected to the real me and not the ego, not the voice in my head, that's when my life really started to transform.
I know women, we all struggle with body image. It doesn't matter where you are on the continuum. We all seem to be just so tough on ourselves. I think it's very interesting though, the way you were able to disassociate yourself so that you could celebrate the whole you and understand that that isn't the you. And I like the example of the ego, like separating the ego from it. And so that's really powerful stuff. And then, of course, adding Eckhart Tolle to it, you know. So take us further. So that's the beginning when it sort of cracked open and we all sort of hit that moment. What has it been like as
Yep.
you've been on this journey?
Yeah, so I mean, once I made space, once I didn't have to be spending so much energy on beating myself up and hating myself, the first thing that happened, I was able to take care of my body in a way that I had never, that had felt like a chore before. I started exercising and eating well and all that stuff, and it felt like magic because all the times I had tried to do it because I hated myself, it didn't really work. And but when I started loving myself, it became natural. So I became a functional fitness trainer, also became a life coach. I wrote a blog called Radical Hate Loss for a while. It was actually like because it felt radical weight loss because it was like, like everybody tells you gotta like fight to do it. And I was like, it was happening like magically. So that's how I got into fitness and got into and went down this path. All this space was freed up in my mind to be able to do so much more. And it's really the path has continued because it's been evolution, because like the journey of self-love and acceptance, it like started there, but over the years I've gone deeper and deeper into loving myself and having grace for myself. And I deeply believe that that is why I'm able to do the leadership, to lead in the way that I do in social justice now, because I don't, not that I don't have feelings of imposter syndrome and feeling all the feelings that humans do, but I have the ability to see that and step away from it instead of be caught up in it all the time, and able to step in and step into my power and who I am and my capacity and my skills and do what I can do.
That's amazing. I'm kind of curious, Stephanie, as you share that, because you talked about being really present and stuff. Are you doing any work like meditation and stuff that allows you? Because I think when you describe that you're able to step away, yes, you feel this, and we can all at times feel imposter syndrome. It's that sense of awareness, so you have that detachment from it. Is
Yeah, I
that?
think yeah. I have periods. I go off and on with meditation. I'm not I can't, I wish I could say I was consistent, but I've had years where I can consistently meditate off and on. When I first started fitness, it was like meditation to me, because when you really move your body in a tense way, you can't be anywhere but else but in your mind. So there's different practices, I think, but I think that word practice is the truth, because that's what it is, all about practice. When you first start to understand like your triggers, or understand like when you're being emotionally triggered. I actually remember being emotionally triggered like early on by my mother. She's not around anymore, but and I remember the first time where I could see it coming. I felt like it was like a truck coming at me, and I couldn't stop it. I went full emotional dysregulation, crazy person. But over time, you learn how to like see things, and it's not always 100%, but the more you practice and the more you know that those voices in your head, that or that trigger, what that trigger is, the more that they lose as much power.
I have two questions here, and I don't know that they commingle, but one is really about the functional training and what that looks like. But the other one is how you got to the self-love. And I would imagine doing some of the training, combining that and looking within. But if you could share that, I think that would be really insightful for women to hear.
The self-love, you know, came when I realized that when it really became unconditional, when it wasn't about like what my body could do or couldn't do. Initially, a lot of it was acceptance, because you're not going to like everything. And people get confused about acceptance. Sometimes people think that acceptance is resignation, that if you accept something, then you're just like not going to do anything about it. But the truth is, like, accepting, and giving yourself grace. And also just realizing like all this stuff is like doesn't even matter. There's so many things about our bodies that like no, but these little things that we don't like, it's like it's taking up so much space to have to like to be thinking it all the time, when all that space can be used for the innate gifts and abilities that we have as humans, that we don't get to use when we're using them, beating up on ourselves or being hard on ourselves. And it doesn't have to be just about your body. It can be really about anything.
Did you go on a journey though? I think that's really helpful to hear. But I'm
Yeah, yeah,
curious, the reason why I was asking about the
yeah,
self-love, you ultimately ended up becoming a functional trainer, which means you're
yeah.
supporting others on the journey,
Yeah.
but to get to acceptance is what I meant. Yeah.
So yes, I think what happened was, so, I had, like I said, I had been overweight my whole life. I had always, been made fun of and been felt left out because of my weight. I had one point when I was in college where I was like, I'm gonna love myself, and I was eating, and I did it for like a year, and then I kind of like fell off. And then, I had the gastric bypass surgery. After the gastric bypass surgery, I had lost, I think I can't remember the numbers now, it's so long ago, but like 160 pounds. And I remember that I was looking in the mirror and crying and being so unhappy trying to get dressed when a year and a half ago before the surgery, I would have said, I would be so happy to be this size. I was a smaller size than I had been since middle school, and I was still not happy. I was still
Mm,
not happy. I
mm,
think that was a lot about what, because it was like at that bottom, like I knew that something was broken. I think losing weight is what made me be like, wait a minute, like this isn't about my body. I wish I could like say exactly so that I could get every other woman to be able to like really like love and accept themselves. But yeah, I mean it was that seeing that, and that was like the motive, that was the shift. And then what happened with the fitness is I decided I wanted to live in my body. Like I wanted to be in my body. I didn't want to like try to lose weight. So when I first started getting into fitness, I found functional fitness, which is basically moving your body the way you do in real life, kettlebells, barbells, dumbbells, running, rowing, all that good stuff. And it didn't focus all on weight loss because I didn't weigh myself like for the first year at all. It was a way that I could just like be in my body and do the workouts, and I had never done anything physical because of being overweight. So it was like an awakening. And it was also for me too, I think it's so important that our mind, body, and spirit all need to kind of be connected. And for me, I was always very spiritual, very, emotionally intelligent, but I did not have that connection with my physical body. So at this time, it was the first time those three things kind of like integrated with me for me. And I wanted everybody to be, I mean, that's what, like a lot of I want everybody to experience that, to be able to be connected, to be able to love their body. It's hard to love something you don't like. It's hard to take care of something you don't like. When you love
mm.
something, it's a lot easier to do to do good things for it.
You know, that's first of all, that's really beautiful. I love the integration of mind, body, spirit, and I love the fact that you were always spiritual. I think this is it's so interesting as it relates to women. It's your story, but it's your story. I mean, how many hundreds, thousands, millions of women struggle with the same thing at a different capacity? So I think getting to self-acceptance that you did, I never knew what functional fitness was.
Right, you could do it anywhere. It's just it's a style of training where you move your body, the way in full body movements, and it's fun, and so yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So moving along, I mean, I think that's just a wonderful part of the journey, the activism side of you. I mean, so here you are. If you're into self-love, man, you're in a very empowered position to go out and do good out there. So talk about what got you into this and like what was that inflection point and where
Yeah.
did it begin?
Yeah. So I've always been like, I always had the natural urge to help. Like I remember being like 13, like going through the white yellow pages trying to find places to volunteer. I don't know where I got it from, but I was always since I was a kid. So that was always like a big part of my life when I was younger. In 2020, my daughter was 14, and she had been struggling since for the 2 years prior to that with her mental health, with self-injurious behavior and suicidal ideation. It was really hard. There was like every week there was something. And during COVID and early in COVID, very early during the quarantine, she was hospitalized. It was horrible. We had to go to the emergency room and sit there as people were coming with COVID. It was just a nightmare hospital experience. And then she came home. She was home for like a month, and she was in a partial program. And then she started to have issues again and was starting to talk about suicidal ideation again. And I was like, I can't put this kid in the hospital again because it was so traumatic the last time. So I said, let's go to the Poconos for a weekend. We went there, and while we were there, we saw on Instagram Live people in our community going out in the streets after George Floyd was murdered. So we watched it and we were like, we should go when we go home. So we went home, and the next day there was a protest at the out here at the mall here out in the street, and I took her, and they in the middle of the street they formed a circle, and she got in the middle of it and she spoke. And I saw a confidence and power in her that I hadn't seen for a long time. And I said, I'm going to take her to every protest that I can. And so I did. So that summer there was lots of protests. We kept going and just being the kind of person that I am, being the organizer that I am. I've been organizing, planning event. I mean, like so many different things. So I just was like, how do I do this? How do I run a protest? I asked, what do you do? And then, we started doing it and I learned a lot. I mean, I have a black family. My husband's from West Africa. My kids are black, and my daughter's biracial. Of course, I've understood racism. I've seen it. I've seen it. But however, it was after getting involved in all this, I really started to wake into the deeper systematic issues and all the things that I just didn't understand. And so the more I learn, the more it makes me more empowered to create change and to build something different that really supports, all people equally and, value and dignity as humans.
That's just unbelievable to see that in her getting in that circle. And that was the shift. That was her pivot, right? That was her pivot
Yeah.
when you
Yeah. And
saw.
I didn't say this about like, my journey with my body, but honestly, she played a role in that too because I had her and and after I had her, I had gained the weight back and hit the rock bottom, like I said. And there was that was part of the motivation too. Because here I had this little baby girl, and I was like, I cannot pass this same stuff on to her. Like I've got it, like she was my motivation because I knew it. So like she tends to be me and her, there's a little she's a little catalyst. She like definitely has
Actually,
a
I want to speak to that, Stephanie, which I think is really interesting, which is I think that good mothers are good role models and they care to role model. And so I think that that's something that should be honored. And so good for you for recognizing it. I still like think about that circle as that almost, you talked about your awakening earlier, a little bit of an awakening for her getting her voice and figuring out who she is and giving her, to your point, confidence. But now, the way you've taken it and created your organization. You want to talk a little bit about that?
that summer 2020, we did, lots of different protests. And at the end of the summer, we decided that we were going to cap off the summer by doing protests across the county and do a car parade in between. And we decided, what are we going to call it? Because we wanted to sign on as many people as possible from different organizations and coalitions. And so we said Community for Change. And that was just the name of that big action that we did. But then we continued. We continued to do educational events and voting things and trans rights rallies and all kinds of stuff, even through COVID and lockdown and things like that. And it's always been about coalition and community. Like there's lots of helpers out there. There's lots of different activists and organizations, and we tend to be kind of in our own silos. So like, like bringing people together to connect, to find that common ground. So that's always been part of it. And then, more recently this year with what's happening in the country, the election, we started to get activated again. But now it's different because we're doing a lot of activism and we're doing a lot of resistance. We do protests, but we're building community. We're building community because that's one of the things that's really missing from a lot of people's lives in our society. We've forgotten how to rely on each other and how to work with each other. The first week after the election, I wasn't like sure what to do. Like, do I start running like women's circles again or healing circles for people? Do I get act? Do I do protests? What do I do? And it was a week after, and I had my appointment with my therapist, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And we decided, let's stop trying to figure it out. And I swear that night I had like an epiphany because it hit me. I can't control what happens at the top. I can't control the federal government. I can't control what's happening in the world. But what I can do is I control how I act my values and what I believe in my relationship with my neighbors, in the relationships with my family, with the relationships with my community, and ultimately the relationship with myself. Like you can't treat yourself like crap and then think you're going to be able to give it out to the world. So really like this right down to the ground level to your own mind and heart and soul is where you do the work of liberation. And I think that's what happened is I realized like what the power of people, the power of us. And the belief that something different is possible. Change, you have to imagine it first before it happens. The biggest, horrible, awfulest systems seem like they never can change until they do.
And you're right. It is about getting and creating. It's the connections that create the community. I mean, that's what Under the Sisterhood's all about.
Yep.
It's about giving you voice and then bringing women together and lifting each other up. And so,
And what you do is also, I think, is let people very authentically tell their truth. And we and that's one of the things that we're told not to do, right? Like especially as women, like you're not supposed to need help, you're not supposed to be struggling, you're not supposed to like you're supposed to have everything together. And that's the way we function in the society. Like nobody talks about how much tax debt or I'm sorry, how much medical debt they're carrying, how much credit card debt they're carrying, or what's happening here. So nobody and it's the same with women. Like if you don't talk about it, when you start to talk about the reality of what we're all facing, what we're all dealing with, there's a shift there that can happen just by like getting it out there. That's the first, what do they say? It's always the first step to change is admit it, right? To know that it's even a thing.
well, and it's interesting, Stephanie, because just hearing that, it makes me think as well. I think that women, society, it's all about the superficial and how we show up and what we're doing versus who we are. And so I think to all of this discussion about understanding your value as a human being. And I think that when you come and you share your truth, and it doesn't matter if you're this esteemed doctor, you still have had your journey to get to there. You still had the bumps. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
where you are.
I think that the quality that I have, and it's funny because my daughter she's very much like this too, is I have always been, and it's not it's a God-given thing because I've always been this way, is my authenticity. Like I'm just a truth teller. I'm just somebody that's authentic. I always have been, and people connect with authenticity.
But I think you hit on it with for us, it is about allowing women to share their truths. And if they want to mask it, that's up to them. I think what I'm finding is it doesn't matter where you are in the ecosystem of the world. We all have so many universal commonalities
Absolutely.
and getting to the truth of it, admitting it, sharing it, being vulnerable with yourself, the world, with women, and saying, hey, but you're still out there doing these things and you still are in your power doing them, but you're still human, right?
Absolutely. Right. And that's and what with Community for Change, one of the decisions that we made about leadership too is that to not do hierarchical style leadership where we have like a president, vice president. It's a leadership team. It's a circle. And and femininity really is a circle. I saw something recently that said that people think that the opposite of a masculine led society is a feminine. It's not opposite, it's completely different. It's the circle. It's everybody's included. Everybody is there.
Boy, we could talk a while about all the things that happened when the new administration took office and the impact on us. But interestingly, and I think you'll appreciate this, and I'm sharing this because I believe it coincides for Community for Change, which is what has happened over these, 6, 9 months, whatever it is, 7 months,
I
is
don't know.
that the
Times
voice
the
just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and louder and louder and louder. And I'm sharing that because I'm guessing that is sort of, I'm more a light. I'm guessing you're more a light now because we have to be, right?
Yeah, one of the things that keeps me going is the people, is working with other people that I'm working with that are showing up and fighting and giving everything that they can every day to protect people and to, defend democracy. So that's a big part of it is the people. But I also think, and this is another thing we do as women, is that you're gonna have emotion. Like, and it's, I think, the emotion has the power when we don't let it live. So it's okay to be angry. There's a lot of stuff to be angry about. So it's like giving space for it. And so one of the things that we've been doing with Community for Change too, that doesn't always happen in every activist space, is that we try to make room for that part of things, the emotional part of things. Too many activist spaces where they just focus on the work and they don't ever tend to their hearts and their spirits, you're going to burn out. This work that, especially now, I mean, the work I'm doing now, like right on the front line, dealing with families that are affected by immigration raids and like real fear and horrible things happening, it's heavy. It's really freaking heavy. We have organizing circles once a month where we have a space for the heart, where people can speak about how, the toll on them, how they're coping, what they need. So it's you can't take one from the other. It's all wrapped up in all of this. And what's happening, I believe that what's happening in the world and in this country is about evolution of spirit. I think that there is an old way of being that is on its way out. I don't know how long it's going to take. But
From your
one
lips to whose ears.
but
Oh my goodness.
but the ways that we're starting to understand about our minds and our consciousness and trauma and neurodivergency and all these different things and harm and how things harm and boundaries and like all these things that we're learning about how to be in a relationship with other and how to be better. You can't put that stuff back in the box. All the ways that we've learned to accept people for who they
I,
what they want to call themselves
interesting.
or ever when they look, all that way of being, that's not going anywhere. So I think what's happening is really evolution of individuals is starting to wake up to and it's really like I said, like it's really is about liberation. We can be free. Liberation of the collective, of the world, of the country is
Mm,
tied to the liberation in our own selves.
yeah, sovereignty, right?
Yep.
Sovereignty. You're right. It's really heavy stuff going into that world. You can talk about a lot of things when you're on the front lines dealing with people living with that. Even if you're not, when you're there as that third party supporting it, guiding it and holding space for it, it's a lot. And I think, but it's really important as well. The work you're
Yeah,
doing is really,
unfortunately, the situation that we're in right now is a situation where we have our federal government breaking constitutional law and civil rights. And so we have local municipalities, like the local county government and the municipal governments, that don't have jurisdiction over the federal government. So we're at this place where it's literally citizens across the country that are on the front line protecting people. And in some sense, that's not new. I mean, it's some of it's not new because that's who's been taking care of the unhoused and like really like out there. So it's people out there that are fighting. But the truth is, the change does not come from it's going to come from the bottom. It comes from the people. It comes from us. It's not gonna. We can't. Nobody's gonna save us. It's about
us
us.
saving us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I couldn't agree more. That's really powerful, really powerful. I'm curious, back to you, because that's the work you're doing. And so
Yeah.
that's what you're doing for others to support others. But like, how are you marching for mental wellness? And it can be personally and professionally and a combination.
I think one of the things I would say that I'm doing for marching for my own mental wellness within all of this is to make space to take care of myself through this and learning to be able to ask for help and learning to make space for myself and model that. It's not always easy when there's like crisis situations going off every day. Making space for myself. And then the other thing is a real commitment to being courageous in my relationships with other people. And that's there. I had some years after COVID where I felt very anti people. I'm sure lots of people are going to relate to me on that respect. Like I didn't want to go to meetings. I didn't want to deal with people at all. But now I've just really made this decision that I know that in this work, there's going to be emotions, there's people with different personalities, but I've decided to be transparent, to be honest, to face conflict with bravery, and also to keep stepping through fear when I do have imposter syndrome, when I do feel, because that comes up. There's times where I'm like, oh, who am I? Like, who am I to be doing this? Why is anybody listening to, and then, just to be to push that away and to just really to be able to do what I can do and use my, it's not always easy, but it's important.
On you're guiding, you're supporting
Yeah.
the community in such a big way. And we can only do that if we're role modeling it. We have to be what we're actually espousing, if you know what I mean. So,
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
in
that's
a
just
lot of ways
impressive.
we're all really learning together too right now because it's we've never this is, although there's always moments in history that resemble others, there is no moment like
It's
the one that we're having right now. It's new. And some people act like some people say feel like we're going backwards. But the thing about the collective evolution is the same as individual evolution. It's not a straight line. You go up, you shake loose, and then you got to deal with stuff again, but you don't go back to where you started. You keep going up. So what's happening now is just a product of growing.
But you're right, there isn't any precedent for what we're living through right now. It's unprecedented. I don't even know how to articulate this, so maybe I should not articulate it. It is so strife with emotional deregulation.
Yeah.
If we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Hmm.
and we all need a safe space to live, all of that. We
Hmm.
can't even feel that right now.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
base level. So forget about self actualization. If one takes time to really think about it, it's kind of hard to get out of bed. But if you sort of, say, I'm going to create this bubble and do what I do really well. So make my personal contributions to this world as good as I can, because that's what, back to your very early comment, I can't control what's out there. I can control what's in here. And we can control that within our families, in some ways in our communities if we
Yeah.
have a voice, but harder in other situations. And so I think it's tricky. What do you think?
It's all process and evolution it's messy. It's every time you go through like a dark time, it feels like like unbearable. Like even when it's part of the whole process getting better. But I think the more that we're able to connect to the essential part of us, what do you call it, a soul, whatever you call it, the part where we're connected to each other and all life, the more that we can get through whatever we need to get through. I think there's in all the bad that's happening and all the harm, like you talk about, like that bottom level. I would never wish any of this, of course. I would never, ever, ever, ever want any of this to happen. But I think there's some things from this society going through this that will ultimately cause growth and transformation. Think about COVID. Think about the quarantine and like how many people's lives have like changed and a lot like for the better, like lost, let go of things that didn't serve anymore. So, these things are happening, but they're happening in service of growth, of a better world.
I think that there is so many lessons to be learned. And so, to your earlier point, if that's the awakening, the collective awakening, won't that be fantastic? If it continues to separate and divide people, the growth is only on an individual level. We really need the growth collectively. And so, I think it'll be curious. I mean, we could go really deep here.
I
So I
think,
like the fact that we're
yeah, I think sometimes, like, I think it can be easy to go focus on your own spiritual path and forget about, like I wish I could remember a quote I saw recently. It was talking about like your individual spiritual path, like if that's your, but it is related to the collective. Because the more that you connect with your true self, that is what creates the collective because you can't if you're really connected to who you really are anybody you can't go out there in the world and do harm to other people. You're going to create, you know what I mean? So it really is to me that it's kind of it's the same,
I hear
all
you.
part and
Yeah.
parcel of the same thing. But you can't turn somebody if you just turn your to your own personal growth and spirituality and as an effect of turning away from the world, especially right now. That's kind of privilege in action too, because it's nice that for those that can, but there's a lot that really can't at all. So yeah.
And I want to, Stephanie, because I have one last question, but before I get to that question, I want to poke a little about this because of the work you do, the Community for Change. What are you seeing in the mental health, the wellness space? Like when you are out there on the front lines doing that, and then you have your monthly heart circles, like what are you seeing?
Obviously, like in communities, it's pretty the mental health issues are widespread right now because it's just a lot of fear and a lot of feeling hated. In the helping space, the activist space, it's a lot what you talked about. I mean, people are doing their best to cope and regulate, but it's a daily assault on your sense of justice and a caring for people. So it's really heavy and hard. And I think, I mean, the people that I work with, I think the work does help. I think it does help to have something to know that you're doing what you can do to contribute. A lot of the folks that I work with say like, and I feel this way too sometimes, like I like they don't have a choice when it comes to like if I have the opportunity, I'm at a place where somebody can is at risk and I can do something, I'm gonna do it. And that's what people are just so there's like the despair and the fear, but there's also like this a level of commitment by the folks in the space that are fighting back. We're gonna fight with everything we have.
I just have to say, this is such a rich conversation. What a tapestry. It touches on so many layers. If you keep peeling back the onion, there's so much here as it relates to humanity, let alone as us as women and how we started the conversation. I'm really, this is your platform today, Stephanie, to give women of all ages, of all backgrounds, of all cultures a message. What would you like to leave them with?
I think what I would like to remind all women that you're embracing a journey towards loving yourself unconditionally and accepting the parts you don't like and giving yourself grace and giving yourself rest and speaking your truth and keeping your boundaries. And all these things are not just about you. Of course, those things will make your life so much more better and full. But it's also about the liberation of all of us. The work that you do to come into your own self more fully and be able to give whatever gifts that you have, whatever skills, whatever you're blessed with have to give that more freely into the world is what will make the world better. So the liberation of our own selves from all the stories of misogyny, from all the ways that we're held back and all the ways we're told that we're less than is about freeing the world. You free yourself, you free the world. And you know, women are good at doing things for other people. So if you don't do it for yourself, love yourself for the world because it's important.
Stephanie, thank you so much for getting under the hood with me. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Under the Sisterhood. If you haven't already, please give us a quick rating and review on Apple or Spotify. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn so you can hear from more amazing women. This podcast is created and hosted by Under the Sisterhood LLC and Elizabeth Elfenbein, produced by Elizabeth Elfenbein and Matt Butler, and edited by Matt Butler. The music is by Ayla Schaefer, her song Rose.